started life as a book, but has transformed itself in various ways, and he's asking whether this is a matter of poverty exposure or poverty exploitation.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to begin by explaining why it was that I chose to talk about, and I'll write my thesis on it as well, the most iconic presumed film of recent times, City of God. Now, it's not purely because of the upheaval that it caused on its release, neither at a national or international level, nor for the fact that it is one of Brazil's most famous exploitations, next to Brizonas, cachaça, and of course, overpaid Brazilian footballers. I chose to focus on City of God, as it was the first Brazilian film I saw in a British cinema. It was an invigorating experience which reignited a passion inside me for a country I left at a very early age. However, years of study has made me wonder, why is it that a film has to showcase social marginalisation, violence, and sex to gain the attention of a national and international audience? Furthermore, does this interfere with the political discourses of the novel written by Paulo Lins? Or does the book's account of genuine gangster violence and integrated into a fictional story actually invite an adaptation? In answering these questions, the objective is not to disregard the necessity to expose presumed social inequality. Rather, it is to show the methods that Paulo Lins and directors Fernando Meirelles use in their versions of City of God that will form the crux of my argument. Therefore, I propose to examine the main points of purpose, narrative, characterization, followed by a summation of these features within the book through textual analysis, then the purpose, narrative, and summation of the film using media adaptation analysis, followed by an overall conclusion. My first point will be formulated in the following question. Is it possible to recognise the rationale behind this book? One could say that Paulo Lins' City of God is a project based on the slums, or rather favelas, as I referred to before, as Lins included research that he carried out for the social anthropologist Alves Abuar in the Rio Slum West Zone, a neighbouring favela area to the one that Lins was actually originally grew up in. He was also under the supervision of the literary critic, Professor Roberto Schwartz, whilst he was writing the novel. However, since City of God takes a similar voyeuristical approach to Drazo's Carandiru Station and Irving Welsh's Train Spotting, Lins could be accused of exploiting human misery for the sake of personal gain and commercial recognition. Nevertheless, these texts all share the ability to expose the reader to a different way of living, which, in the case of City of God, was the favela lifestyle in a raw, candid form to a literate middle-class audience. Now, Lins does this to great effect through the narrative, as he recreates the world of the favela through an anonymous, articulate, but rather vulgar narrator who interchanges the formality of his language to reflect the favela's ambivalent ambience. Yet this narrative perspective is in the style of a tourist guide. I'll explain why anyway. As the narrator may not come from the slum they refer to, but they know the area and can communicate effectively with the locals. However, the difference between authors of the modern romance canon on Pauline's is that he amalgamates styles of formality in order to establish an emotional, or an intense emotional reader engagement. Nevertheless, it is this direct literary approach to criminality that Pauline's employs, perhaps to reach a literary audience who will only accept the truth through a forced transportation into another world it would not normally have the possibility to experience. Now, it is this gateway that Linz provides to the readership, which enables him to introduce characters that form gangs sharing either virtues or sinister affinities. For example, kids play with football, who play with marbles, all quite normal pastimes for youths all over the world. However, Linz also attributes an inherent, violent and unstable trait to the character, as well as environmental depictions, creating a feeling of general pessimism. This is evident in Linz's vocabulary choice of abandoned mansions, babies' bellies, oddly sharp pendants, shown here, revolvers, sambas, hunger, betrayal, and death, all to categorise the unimaginable, unpleasant, but rather real, urban war zone culture that conditions these youths to become martyrs to a neoliberalist capitalist system. So in sum, such negative connotations of sharp contrast allows Pauline to ascribe innocence to these youths as they're born into a world that is hidden away from us by the fallacious rhetoric of racial democracy or social equality. In doing this, Linz integrates classic with realist, melodrama, social and agnostic themes within this multicultural romance. Perhaps to replicate the literary techniques of similar genre novels like The Godfather by Mario Puzo or Nicholas Pileggi's Wise Guy